So in this presentation we are going to talk about the ultrasonography of the spleen of small animals. So first, the indications to perform an ultrasonographic examination of the spleen in dogs or cats would be mostly if we find a generalized splenomegaly or an abdominal mass on palpation or on abdominal radiographs, but also in cases of hemoperitoneum or if there is a trauma, or in case with the acute abdominal pain in dogs, for example, when we are looking for a splenic torsion. So first, the ultrasonography of the spleen. The spleen head is located in the left cranial abdomen. It's attached there to the stomach, to the fundus of the stomach by the gastrosplenic ligament. So the head of the spleen will be fixed in this left cranial abdomen, but the rest of the spleen, the tail of the spleen, will have a variable position. It can be located along the left abdominal wall, but it also can cross to the right side in dogs and be seen on the complete ventral, mid-abdomen and right side of the abdomen. The spleen has an homogeneous ecotexture with a smooth hyperechoic capsule, and often we see the splenic veins that are visible at the hilus. They drain into the main splenic vein, that which itself drain into the portal vein. So first we put the transducer of the ultrasound machine on the left side, caudal to the stomach and cranial to the left kidney, to look for the head of the spleen. So this head of the spleen is sometimes not visible just by looking on the ventral aspect of the abdominal wall, and we'll have to angulate the probe under the ribs to see the head of the spleen better. If we don't do that, we can miss some part of the spleen and miss some lesions in this head of the spleen. We can also try to put the transducer in between the ribs to look for the spleen if it's really located underneath the rib cage. Then we have to keep in mind that the echogenicity of the spleen is generally more important than the one of the liver and kidneys. So the spleen will always be brighter than the liver and kidneys. If it's not, then there is a problem. So what we will see with ultrasound can be a diffuse splenomegaly. So this diffuse splenomegaly can be due to multiple reasons. So like we have an example of a diffuse splenomegaly with the normal aspect of the parenchyma of the spleen, so quite hyperechoic and fine, with this fine ecotexture. But we can see that here we are almost at 7 centimeters and the spleen is still occupying the complete image, so very large spleen in this case, but with a normal parenchyma. So here we have a large spleen with a normal parenchyma. We have really different diagnosis possible. It can be due to passive congestion, anesthesia, or sedation, which are the most common reasons why we see that. But it can also be secondary to infection, immune-mediated disease, or some parasitic infections, for example. In case of neoplasia, we can have a diffuse enlargement with a normal parenchyma. That's possible, for example, like in lymphomas, but that's more rare. In general, we will see also some changes within the parenchyma. With the torsion, the spleen will really severely increase in size, but then we will have also some changes in the parenchyma, like we will see later. So those diffuse splenic changes, we can have tumors. So a tumor, so we'll see that in general the spleen will be enlarged as well, and it can be either normal, like we saw with lymphoma, but it can also be with a diffuse hyperechogenicity of the parenchyma, a diffuse hypoechogenicity, or a mottled parenchyma. So for example, lymphoma can really give all those types of pattern in the spleen here, but this mottled pattern that we can see here, so meaning that the spleen is enlarged and it shows multiple small hypoechoic areas throughout the parenchyma, or like we can see in this region as well. This is quite typical of a lymphoma, for example. But we can have other diffuse neoplasia that can affect the spleen, and mostly it will be malignant histiocytosis, mastocytoma, or leukemias. Another example of a diffuse splenic change, it's the secondary appearance of the spleen that we'll see in case of thrombosis or torsion of the spleen. So thrombosis will be, if it's located in the main spleen, also will create an obstruction of the splenic vessels. So both will have the same consequences on the parenchyma of the spleen. So first we will have a severely increased size. The spleen will occupy a large part of the abdomen of the dog. It will be diffusely hypoechoic and with hyperechoic striations. So that's what we see here, or in this images here or here. In fact, that's what we call with ultrasound the dark sky with stars. It means that it's very dark parenchyma with hyperechoic spots or striations that are representing in fact the wall of the vessels, and this is very typical of splenic torsion and thrombosis also. Sometimes we can see a hyperechoic triangle at the hilus, so that's in fact a hyperechoic fat of the mesentery that is visible there at the hilus, and this is mostly seen with torsion. We can also see it rarely in some cases of thrombosis. So it's not completely helping us to determine the difference between torsion and thrombosis. What we will see in both cases as well, it's the absence of flow with the Doppler. So if we put the Doppler like here in the hilus region of the spleen, so here we have the splenic vessel, we won't find any flow pattern within this vessel, which is not normal, because normally we should see some color here because of the flow, and that can be also due to thrombosis or torsion. So it's not so easy sometimes with ultrasound to differentiate between a thrombosis and a torsion, but the result will be the same. That the spleen has to be removed rapidly and surgically, of course. Then in the splenic parenchyma we can have focal lesions. So it will be mostly hypoechoic lesions that are really commonly found in the spleen of dogs. For example, it can often be an incidental finding, but yeah, those hypoechoic lesions are very frequent, and as we can see, there is a very long list of differential diagnoses. So they can be neoplastic with the lymphoma, mast cell tumors, malignant histiocytosis, hemangiosarcoma. So like we see here, for example, very round, hypoechoic, quite homogeneous here as well. So they can represent also metastasis of other neoplasia, but they can also be benign. So they can be due to hematomas, some acute infarction, nodular hyperplasia, extramedullary hematopoiesis, for example. So it will be, again, with the ultrasonography, difficult to differentiate between this. So the ultrasonography will be very sensitive to detect those lesions, but not specific to say if it's benign or malignant. So we will need further tests for that, and aspiration of those nodules is really necessary to make the determination between benign and malignant. We can also find some focal hyperechoic lesions within the spleen. These are more rare, and in general they are, like in the liver, more benign lesions. So they can be signs of infarction, of chronic infarction, of myelolipomas, like we can see in this example. So in fact it's just fat along the vessels of the spleen or at the hilus of the spleen. They are totally incidental and presenting no problem for the dog or the cat. it can be also some types of nodular hyperplasia. But rarely those hyperechoic lesions, they can also be due to neoplasia, so like in mast cell tumors or with some kind of metastasis. So here we have some example of a hyperechoic lesion dispersed through the splenic parenchyma. Then we can have also focal lesions that are again mixed lesions, meaning a mixture of hypoechoic, isoechoic, or even sometimes hypoechoic areas. Again, those lesions are not specific because we can see them with hematoma or abscess that can really look very heterogeneous on the ultrasound examination. So it's not because it's very mixed and very heterogeneous that it has to be something malignant. It can also be an hematoma or an abscess. Nodular hyperplasia can also look like that, so also benign. But of course, those hypoechoic mixed lesions, they can also represent neoplasia, and when we have cavitated lesions like we can see here, it's often what we see with hemangiosarcoma, so it can also be suspicious of hemangiosarcoma. So of course then it's difficult to differentiate between an hematoma and an hemangiosarcoma in those cases. We can have some target lesions also that will be mixed lesions, and in general those lesions are suspicious of metastasis, but they can be benign as well, but that's more rare. So if we see that, like those lesions here that are very targets, what mean target means that there is a hypoechoic center surrounded by a hypoechoic rim, it's always suspicious of metastasis, and some aspiration should be performed in those cases. So those splenic nodules, well, in cats, they are always suspicious, so we definitely need to do fine needle aspiration in all of those cases. In dogs, it's a bit more complicated. If it is target lesion, so of course it will be very suspicious of metastasis, so we definitely have to take aspirations. And for the other types of nodule, hypoechoic or mixed nodule, it's also advised to do fine needle aspirations. If we can't, then we can also propose to do regular rechecks with ultrasound examinations every 1 or 2 months, for example, to see if the nodule is increasing or decreasing in size. Because, for example, if it's an hematoma, it should disappear with time, and of course, if it's a neoplasia, it will probably increase in size. Those splenic nodules can be difficult to manage because then we can find them really incidentally in a lot of dogs. For example, if you have a dog coming for a urinary problem and then we find a splenic nodule, it's often difficult to know what to do with those nodules because often it's just incidental and benign, but we can't never be sure with ultrasound.